Okay, Pops, there is just another day or two, September 12th, last day to leave public comments for the FTC's proposed rules against shady car dealer tactics, and found on the interwebs a 3.5-minute video from the National Automobile Dealers Association telling us consumers why the FTC's proposed rules are, bad. I thought we could watch it and react together. What do you think?
Whatever you say, and then maybe we can rush right out and do a film of our own.
Sounds good. Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Buying a car. It's one of the biggest purchases you'll make, and it's a complex transaction with loads of forms, disclosures, and paperwork required by the federal and state governments. But that complexity and all those forms you have to sign, new regulations would make the transaction even more complicated and confusing if bureaucrats in Washington have their way. Let's take a look. In today's trillion-dollar automotive market, about 45 million new and used cars are sold each year at dealerships. More than 160 million vehicles are taken for repairs and service. All told, consumers interact with dealerships over 1 billion times each year. But the federal government is proposing new regulations that would require 3 new forms to be filled out and presented to a consumer, 2 for signing, if you decide to finance a vehicle and buy a product like an extended service contract. And a new form would be required each time you ask about a different vehicle. More forms with questions not only about the new vehicle price, but also about trade-ins, down payments, rebates, financing costs, and extended warranties. Every time you so much as ask about a vehicle or how to finance it, there are new disclosures involved, in addition to all the forms and paperwork that already have to be filled out when you purchase the vehicle. But it goes further. Dealerships would effectively not—
Stop
Go
for
for
a
it,
second.
Pops.
Well, what I was going to say is, so what's so terrible about actually having to disclose that information on every car that you might ask about or have some interest in, so that as a consumer you can make a more intelligent decision as to whether or not it's affordable for you, either on a monthly basis or if you're just writing a check for it? I don't understand the concept of providing more information and more clarity to the consumer, why that it would be a bad thing. And if that takes a few more minutes so that the customer actually understands it, what's wrong with that?
Well, do you even think it's going to take a few more minutes? I mean, if the price was actually the advertised price on the website, and then when you go in and you see the form that they're now going to show you that says, hey, this is what the price was and this is what the price is, I don't see that taking more time. I actually think there's efficiencies to be found there. And honestly, Dad, you know what? Another form for when they try and sell you the extended warranty that you didn't ask for, that might not be such a bad thing, because we get all sorts of direct messages on Instagram, on the community forum, etc. People who don't realize that they're buying those products. They get slipped in on the buyer's order, the purchase order.
Yep.
I think another form might even be helpful when folks are buying products like that.
I think the better understanding that a consumer has about what they're possibly purchasing is, better for everybody, because, that way the consumer can feel more confident about what it is that they just purchased. There are no gray areas, so to speak. There shouldn't be any misunderstandings at the end of the transaction if everything is disclosed in a timely and efficient manner during the negotiation process. So you're thinking about selling your car. Go to joinyaa.com/sell and just enter the information once and get all the offers in one place. It's just that simple.
All right, let's keep watching.
Yep.
Dealerships would effectively not be able to answer questions about monthly payments for different vehicles unless you sign new disclosures over and over. The government would also effectively require dealerships to retain every written sales or financing interaction they have with a customer.
Oh my God, the horror of it all. Actually having the documentation of everything that was said, so that if there's ever an issue, if there's ever a court action, there's actually documentation to either back up what the customer said or back up what the dealership said. Oh, the horror of it all. Oh my goodness, that is so terrible.
I love how they also talk, Dad. The dealer will no longer be able to talk to you about monthly payments until you've signed disclosure. We want to know the out the door price. The total price, not the monthly payment that you could get me into on an 84 month, the total price of the vehicle, the out the door price. If you're unfamiliar with that concept, go Google search it. We've got all sorts of videos helping you learn how to negotiate. It's incredible even how they frame it here, like we're foolish or we're stupid. No, we don't want to negotiate monthly payment. We want to negotiate out the door price.
Exactly.
Chats with the sales or financing representatives, on top of the loads of forms that are already kept. And it would do all this without ever having tested these proposals in the real world to see if they actually work with consumers. What on earth is going on here?
It's called progress,
Over the
lady.
last
It's called
10 years,
progress.
Local dealerships have sold more than 450 million cars and serviced vehicles more than 1.5 billion times. Over those 10 years, the FTC has prosecuted wrongdoing at dealerships 37 times. Every consumer deserves to be treated fairly, and each of these enforcement actions is serious. When wrongdoing happens, the law is clear, and the federal government already has the tools to rightly enforce the law against those who break it. But 37 instances in 10 years, over 450 million transactions, is just not evidence of a widespread problem. And instead of going after the outliers, these regulations would radically change the car buying process for everybody.
Dad, am I mistaken here, or do you think the 47 actions are a reflection of, I don't know,
37.
bad laws? 37, excuse me, bad laws or poor enforcement. And I think that's an incredibly important component to this. FTC can pass whatever rules and regulations they want. If they don't enforce things, this is all stupid. This is all pointless. We're all wasting our time.
Yes.
There are more than 37 instances out of those 450 million transactions. So you know what? You know what, NADA? You're right. There should be 3 or 4 zeros after that 37 for all the enforcements there should have been. And shame on you, FTC, for not taking more action. We can be advocates for these new proposals, but you actually have to freaking do something once you get them enacted, right?
Yes. Enforcement is the key. But just because there's only been 37 examples of it, that doesn't mean there's only been 37 cases. That just means there's been 37 cases that have gone to an enforcement proceeding. Oftentimes the FTC might get in touch with a dealership and say, hey, this is what we've been seeing happening at your dealership. We will give you the opportunity to clean things up, and if you don't, then we will be forced to enjoin you with an enforcement action. So just because there's only been 37 enforcement actions doesn't mean there's only been 37 cases where the FTC has been involved. But you are 100% correct. The FTC must enforce the rules that are already on the books and enforce the new proposals if they go into effect. And they must do it in a more strident and forceful manner than they have in the past.
Completely agree. All right, we got a minute left. Let's see what else the NADA has to say.
Adding layers of complexity, new forms and disclosures to fill out multiple times in the car buying process. And as 80% of new car dealerships are now able to sell vehicles online, these new regulations could thoroughly frustrate progress in online sales. And all this at a time when consumer satisfaction at the dealership is increasing substantially.
Excuse me?
Even in the studies that the government cites. It's 2022. The whole world is online, including car sales. Today's transactions should be easier and simpler, not more complex and burdensome for consumers.
Okay, this is just irritating. One of the FTC's proposals is that you would have to remove the call us for pricing on vehicles. Like, are you telling me that would not make it more efficient for online shopping? Like, come on now, man. 23 seconds, Michael Jordan, fantastic basketball player, 23 seconds. Let's see what we got here, Pops.
Tell the FTC its new rule on vehicle sales is unnecessary and that they should continue to enforce the laws on the books, not create new complex rules that will make car buying more complicated, hurt consumers, and stand in the way of progress. Paid for by NADA.
All right, Dad. There you go. What do you think? What do you make of it?
I wish we had their money to be able to produce slick videos like they did. What I make of it is that they want to keep things archaic. They want to keep things the way they've been. They want to allow shady dealers to continue to be shady dealers, and they don't want to stand up for what's ultimately good for the consumer. It's the National Automobile Dealers Association. They're there to protect the dealers. They're not there to protect the consumers. They could care less about how consumers are treated and get ripped off.
So if you're watching this video, it's dropping on Saturday, September 10th. On Monday, September 12th, that is the final day for public comment on the FTC's website, regulations.gov. If you go to joinyaa.com/FTC, that'll automatically redirect you to the comment submission page. We are advocating for as many of our community members as possible to leave comments either for or against the proposed rules. We think most people should be for these proposed rules. Let's remind everyone, Dad, there are 4 proposed rules. The price advertised of a vehicle would actually be the price of the vehicle. We would remove products that have no benefit. For example, nitrogen tire fill, VIN etch, things like that. We would also have non-discriminatory practices for cash buyers. And last but not least, we would have enhanced consent for finance and insurance products, those extended warranties, for example. So if you feel like those rules should be enacted, great. Leave your public comment. We have 2 days left to be able to make our voices heard.
To be fair, and if you think they shouldn't be enacted, leave that comment as well. We're not going to be quite as heavy-handed as the NADA is. This is an opportunity for consumers to make their voices heard, either for or against. And as consumers out there, we would just want you to be involved one way or the other.
Absolutely, Pops. All right, thanks for your time as always. And thank you, NADA, for that slick video. Spend more money on videos. Spend it all, actually. Just spend it all on videos. I think that's a great decision.
Man, we're in the wrong field, buddy.